We've all got those people in our lives who feel like there's more to the world than what first meets the eye. They're the kind of folks who might believe that somewhere behind the scenes, some shadowy Illuminati-like cabal is secretly pulling all the strings and running the world to meet their own ends. But while we can't confirm the existence of anything like this, we can say for certain that one company has pretty much reached the level of global domination over the last few decades, and they've done such a good job at keeping it quiet that you may never have heard of them at all. So let's rectify this today by giving you a bit of the backstory on the history of Blackrock, looking specifically at how it's managed to become such an integral part of the overall world economy, and what some of the many controversies surrounding its existence are. Before we get to there though, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you'll be the first to be notified about new videos we post every week. And with that said, let's begin. Blackrock was founded in 1988 by a group of 8 financial experts, the 3 most prominent of which were Larry Fink, Robert S. Capito, and Susan Wagner. And what was their goal in doing this? Well, it was to provide institutional clients with only the best asset management services from a risk management perspective. But of course, when it came to one of the founders of the company, Larry Fink, this wasn't his first rodeo with a large business venture in the financial sector, as in years prior, he'd serve as the head of investment bank First Boston, losing $100 million during his tenure there. So for him then, he needed Blackrock to be a success more than anything, if for no other reason than so he could save his reputation going forward. And with that attitude driving him, he, alongside the rest of his colleagues, were able to do just this as by 1999, with the success of their mortgage-backed securities ventures, the company was able to go public, at this point being worth an estimated $165 billion. This was when the next phase of their plans started to come to fruition, as when the 2008 financial crash hit the world hard, BlackRock would use their powerful connections to become the go-to people called upon by a variety of Washington and Wall Street figures, so as to help them dig themselves out of the mess they'd created. Yes, despite being partially responsible for the crash itself, BlackRock would now find that they were in a position where they could directly profit from it. And so, while millions of people around the world were losing both their livelihood and the roofs over their head as a result of what had happened, Larry Fink and company would let the money roll in as they offered low-risk exchange trade funds to a number of organizations hit the hardest by the recession. A year after that, they became the #1 asset manager in the world, with the company at this point purchasing both R3 Capital Management and part of Barclays, adding a further $15 billion to their assets in the process. But they wouldn't stop there, as after continuing to buy stocks in pretty much every major company out there in the years that followed, BlackRock would use their growing wealth to invest in a supercomputer named Aladdin, with this helping them to decide what investments to make in the future. And that would pay off dividends as it happened, because not long after it was introduced, the company would find themselves overseeing assets with a total value of $20 trillion, accounting for a full 10% of the global economy. So obviously, with that much money came an incredible amount of influence, as now owning stakes in large sections of the banking system, the media, oil companies, the pharmaceutical industry, and the weapons manufacturing industry. Larry Fink had the ear of anyone he wanted to speak to. And that's where some more of the controversy surrounding him and his company arise, because with one organization holding so much sway over what happens in pretty much every aspect of the world, to the point where even nations such as the United States and China have relied on them to get out of recessions in the years since, it seems like there's no one who has the power to run any checks and balances over BlackRock. This then has given them carte blanche to exploit anything and everything for profit, no matter how much damage it does to those around them. Take, for example, the fact that as of December 2018, with shares totaling $11 billion in their portfolio, BlackRock has become the largest coal investor in the world. This on top of them already owning more oil and gas reserves than any other investor on the planet. Sure, from one perspective, it's just good business, as these are highly valuable and sought-after products which people will pay a lot of money for. On the other hand, though, the damage being done to the environment with this is catastrophic, with BlackRock's reserves accounting for a full 9.5 gigatons of carbon dioxide emission, as high as 30% of the total worldwide emissions. Yes, this seemingly unchecked power has meant that, with no one around to stop them, there really has been no reason for Larry Fink and the rest of his board to stop the damage they're doing to the planet. Of course, there is the power of public protest, and this has created enough of a backlash to where the company announced in 2020 that environmental sustainability would be a key aspect they look at going forward. At that point, in fact, they even claimed they would be selling $500 million worth of coal-related assets. But as of the time of this video's recording, this is yet to happen, and there's really no one forcing their hand on it from a legal sense. And if you want further evidence of how serious or non-serious Blackrock are when it comes to combating climate change, just look at how certain governing bodies have reacted in the years since, with Riley Moore, the state treasurer of West Virginia, listing the company as one of 6 who would no longer be allowed to do business in the state, as a result of their continued advocacy of the fossil fuel industry. Now again, this may seem like a win in terms of someone gaining a sense of checks and balances over such a powerful organization. But while it certainly is movement in the right direction, one state's decisions are not going to be enough to kill Blackrock's business. So why do we mention it then? Well, to show that maybe Larry Fink and the rest of his board aren't being as genuine as they seem when they say they're committed to combating climate change in the future. But these are far from the only controversies which Blackrock have found themselves embroiled in over the years, as after becoming the first American company to gain access to China's mutual fund industry in August of 2021, they would gain the opportunity to invest in and purchase parts of Chinese companies, which are otherwise blacklisted to the rest of the United States. And while this has had the immediate effect of increasing the company's power and influence even more, giving them a seat at the table with one of the world's other great superpowers, it has also allowed for that influence to go both ways. Yes, now the Chinese government, with their ability to dangle the carrot of business ventures in front of them, have the ear of Blackrock, and so can influence the way they do things in the future, something which could be a concern to democracy itself given how much power the company has in the Western political sphere. Writing for the Wall Street Journal in 2021, in fact, George Soros even highlighted this concern, calling their decision to get so heavily involved in China a tragic mistake that would ultimately damage the national security interests of the US and other democracies. And if you want an example of these dangers in action, look no further than some of the groups Blackrock have already started investing in, perhaps the most controversial of which are the Uyghurs of Xinjiang, a group frequently associated with human rights abuses. On top of that, Blackrock were recently criticized for investing in Hikvision, a Chinese state-owned video surveillance company, which has similarly been associated with both abuses of privacy and human rights. And given that much of what Larry Fink and company have been trying to do outside of these ventures recently has been more forward-thinking when it comes to influencing firearm access and gender diversity in the workplace, many have come to label the company as hypocritical due to their continued involvement in a dictatorial state. In fact, it's been a common criticism to say that Blackrock don't actually believe any of the left-leaning policies they're pushing at all, and that this is all just a way of trying to rehab their image amongst those who have a poor view of them. Of course, many of these views have had to find voice in more grassroots campaigns, because when it comes to what you'll see in the mainstream media, there's rarely a bad word to be said about Blackrock, if there are any words to be said at all. And the reason for this is that, in keeping with their policy of having influence over pretty much every aspect of the world, the company has purchased significant stock in a number of large media organizations over the years. Yes, alongside Vanguard, one of their investment firms, Blackrock currently owns 18% of Fox, 16% of CBS, 13% of Comcast, and 12% of Disney. This then gives them the ability to control the narrative in both left and right-wing news sources, have a huge say in what the overall policies of these groups are going forward. On top of that, in the world of tech, Blackrock now owns huge stakes in the likes of Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Amazon, making their influence all that much greater as we all know the power these companies have when it comes to what news gets out there and how. So what can we learn from this then? Well, basically it's that if you want to succeed in the world of business, gaining the right influence over the right people is key. If you can do that, ideally from somewhere off the shadows, then maybe, just maybe, you could become more powerful than you might ever have believed, gaining the ability to mold the world itself in your image in the process. But that's enough from us. Let us know your thoughts. Is Blackrock a threat to our way of life, or are they just another successful business doing what any other would do in their position? Leave us a comment down in the description. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be the first to be notified of new behind the business videos we post every week. Be inspired, and we will see you in the next one. Since you made it all the way to this point, here are 2 more videos that YouTube thinks you are going to love. Go on, click on it. Let's see if they're right.